everyone. Soki and Sensei Briggs here with you again. We're going to continue our video trainings that we've been doing. Can continue from last week. We've got a few more items to cover on things that we do in our Kidokime-ryu class. Soki is going to start by recapping the last thing we talked about last week, which was our broken rhythm fighting.
Okay, so, well, let's do straight rhythm and broken rhythm fighting. Straight rhythm fighting, we talked about that last week, straight rhythm and broken rhythm fighting. Straight rhythm fighting is fighting, we compared it to a monotone speaker that speaks at the same rate of speed, no inflection in her voice. It's just boring as boring can be. Well, straight rhythm fighting is kind of the same thing. Yeah, straight rhythm fighting is one speed, pretty much the same techniques all the time, same stances, just come, you know, whether it's throw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 techniques, back off, come back in, do the same thing. It's just doing the same thing over all time. You're not varying nothing. Broken rhythm fighting is just the opposite of that. Broken rhythm fighting is where you vary your speeds, you vary your stances, you don't fight straight on, and we're going to talk about straight line fighting and angle fighting here in a minute, but you're even mixing it up there. You're going to angle fighting, you're straight line fighting, you're fighting from a right hand fighting stance, you're fighting from a left hand fighting stance, you're mixing spinning techniques up with straight line techniques. You're mixing your hands and your feet together. You're mixing everything up as much as possible to keep your opponent off guard as much as possible. Even the speed of your techniques, or maybe even how hard you throw the techniques is in power wise. You know, you might hit them a couple of times where it's just like, that ain't so bad, and then the next time you might drop the hammer on it, you know. So that's broken rhythm fighting, just mixing things up real good while you're fighting with your opponent.
Okay, and that brings us to the next item that we have is, what is line fighting?
Okay, so line fighting, let's say, if you stand right there in your fighting stance, you and I are sparring, doesn't matter what stance, it can be this stance, it can be this stance, whatever the case may be. When we're sparring, there's an imaginary line between you and I, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter whether it's right here, whether it's right here, whether we turn and like it doesn't matter. There's still an imaginary line that is connecting you and I together when we're fighting.
Right.
Well, line fighting is fighting on that imaginary line, if you will. You're not fighting at angles, you know, like this line that connects you and I together right here. If we just go in, we throw techniques, whether it's hands, feet, whatever the case may be, whatever stance, and come back, this is line fighting. We're just continually going in on our opponent, bam, 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 and then we break contact, and then we go back in, bam, 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 and break contact. That's line fighting. You're just staying on that line and just coming directly toward your opponent, just off and on, you know, and you're doing nothing else but just coming directly at your opponent. That's called line fighting.
Okay, so what is angle fighting?
Well, angle fighting, again, if you will, this imaginary line between two opponents right here, as we just discussed. Line fighting is just staying on that line, coming in, going out, coming in, going out, and just staying on that line, you know, and fighting on that imaginary line. Well, angle fighting is we still got this line that is connected, this imaginary line that's connecting you and I together. Well, angle fighting is just simply working off that line and setting up an angle where I can attack you from an angle.
Okay.
That's what angle fighting is. Okay. You know, you can angle this way, or you can angle this way and, you know, throw a back fist, or even angle this way, you know, and throw a side kick into you, or plant and do a spinning technique. It doesn't matter, but we're working off of angles. We're trying to set our opponent up where it's not just so much come in, bam, 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 and come out. Now, you know, we'll go at an angle and do something. You know, whatever angle that may be, or whatever foot you're shooting off on an angle. That's what angle fighting is.
Okay. Okay, so what is meant by crossing the line in angle fighting?
Well, I actually just did that. Again, we're sparring with each other. we got this imaginary line. And we'll start back at the beginning, angle fighting. In, bam, 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 come out. Doesn't matter what stance, bam, 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 come out. This is line fighting. Angle fighting is shooting off at an angle and attacking.
Right.
You know, one way or the other like this. Crossing the line and angle fighting, anytime you're going to, pretty much anytime you're going to do angle fighting, you're going to cross that line. Because remember, we got this connecting line between you and I, right?
Right.
So if I cross this line to shoot off at an angle, this is crossing, this is what is referred to as crossing the line.
Okay.
If you're training somebody to angle fight, or if you're an angle fighter yourself, let's just say you're coaching, you're training, you're instructing someone how to angle fight. Well, you need to tell them about the line. You know, hey, just imagine that there's an imaginary line between you and your opponent, and you've got to cross, instead of staying on that line, you got to cross that line to get at an angle now in order to throw a technique at your opponent. So that's what crossing the line is. You're crossing this imaginary line. And it doesn't matter which side you cross. You can cross to the right, you can cross to the left, it doesn't matter. But you're crossing this line like this.
Okay.
And that, some people, it gets confusing to them. You might have to draw it out, you know, a little stick figure here, and draw a line to it, and be like, okay, if I want to take it up here, I'm going to cross this line, this imaginary line there, you know. But it's really not that difficult. When you angle fight, you're going to cross the connecting line.
Right. Okay. So speaking of the line, what does disconnect and reconnect the connecting line mean in fighting, and why is it important?
Well, again, if we've got this, tonight we're talking a lot about this line, this imaginary line between us. So again, we got this imaginary line between us, okay? So the question was, why is disconnect and reconnect the connecting line important?
Yes.
Okay, so we got this imaginary line, right? So we get in here, doesn't matter whether you move, I move, we both move at the same time, and we just get up close and personal and we're mixing it up, okay? So disconnecting the connecting line means breaking contact with your opponent. And when I say break contact, and if we're in here mixing it up, I'm not saying break contact here, because we can still hit each other again.
Right.
I'm saying break contact where I no longer pose you a threat by being able to hit you, you no longer pose me a threat by being able to hit me. I'm talking about break contact. Okay, get way back over here. And then, obviously, we can't fight each other from here, right? I mean, you can stand over there and throw kicks and punches all day long, and I can do it right here, but we're not going to hit each other. So then, you're going to reconnect this connecting line. Now you're going to get back in the game. You're going to reconnect. You're going to make contact again. So you're breaking contact or disconnecting the line, and you're making contact again, or you're reconnecting this connecting line. And was the part 2 on it? Why is it important?
Yes. Why is it important?
Okay. So again, let's say you and I are fighting each other. We're in here and we're mixing it up and we're going to town, and both of us taking some shots, or maybe I'm taking more shots than you are. Okay. And I'm obviously, if I'm taking the brunt end of it, I don't want to stay here like this. I got to do something different. So I'm going to break contact, disconnect this connecting line, right? Well, when I disconnect this connecting line, the important reason why you want to do that is so you, real quick, and you don't have all day to do this, but real quick, it gives you a break to think, what can I do? How can I get in? What do I need to throw next? Before you reconnect this connecting line again. Because if you're standing in here and you're getting worn out, just bam, just taking shot after shot all over, you can't think hard. I mean, you're fighting basically off an instinct. Is what you're doing at that time. So in order to think, what can I do to help myself? I've got to break contact. Now, the important part is, once you break contact, gather your thoughts up. Be like, okay, I got to do this, otherwise this person's going to kill me. And you have a game plan in when you come back. But sometimes when you disconnect that connecting line, you're only going to be disconnected for a second or two, so you better think fast. And if you're fighting a blitz fighter, again, and you try and break it, what's that blitz fighter going to do? They're going to chase you. So you're going to have to somehow break contact with them and formulate in your mind, because a lot of people, if they start getting hammered hard, taking a lot of shots, whether it's to the body or to the head, they can't think straight while they're doing that. They just want to get out of that, you know, maybe to collect their thoughts, but they, you know, you can't, it's hard to think when you're just taking shot after shot. So you disconnect that connecting line, get these thoughts back together, formulate really, really quick a game plan, and then get back in the fight.
Okay.
So.
All right. Next on the list we have, what are the 2 good actions of retreat?
Okay. So the 2 good actions of retreat are half step and multiple skip. Half step is fairly simple. A lot of people will confuse the multiple skip as retreat shuffle, and it's not. Okay, it's 2 whole different things. But half step is, we're in here sparring, we're in here fighting like this, and let's throw the lead punch just in my chest. Boom, you can hit me from here,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So if I see, or throw the rear punch, boom, you can hit me from here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I see that shoulder right there starting to move, come my way, or these hips rotate. You know, I see that quick movement and start doing. So I know something's coming, and when I see it, and I just take this half step back like this, I'm getting out of your way. Okay.
Okay.
You can't hit me from here.
No.
Not doing what you're going to do.
No.
Okay. So this is a half step form of retreat. You know, somebody do that, you just take a half step back. It doesn't matter whether that technique misses you by that far, which is what, maybe an inch or 2 off my nose, or this far. If it misses you, it misses you.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You know? So if you want to counter attack what they're doing, you want to try and make it barely miss you. You don't want to get so far out of reach where you can't counter attack. So if I see, again, this reverse punch coming, I want to get so far out of the way where I know it's not going to hit me, but I'm still close enough where I can block and counterattack. Or maybe I just won't block. Maybe I'll just come up, bam, and counterattack.
Okay.
But I step back far enough to where your technique is posing no threat to me. Okay? And that's called a half step. You get just far enough out of the way where your opponent's technique is not going to make contact with you.
Okay.
And that's called a half step.
Right.
Now, multiple skip is, remember, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday one of last week, we were talking about blitz fighters.
Yes.
And the footwork for a blitz fighter is what?
The run step.
The run step. Right. That means you're just basically straight on, just charging somebody and coming at them full bore.
Right.
Like that. Well, that's where the multiple skip comes in at. Because if someone comes at you like that, run step, and just all out blitzing you, you've got to do something.
Right.
Okay? So that's where, and I don't have enough room, but here, let me see if I can.
Over just a little bit.
That's where the multiple skip comes in at.
Okay.
Because if they're charging you, you got to get out of the way. But at some point during that multiple skip, you're going to have to lock down and counterattack. Or somewhere during that multiple skip, you're going to have to sidestep and counterattack. Because this person's got it dead in their mind, they're going to blitz you using that run step, and they're coming straight at you. You can multiple skip, but it depends upon the size of the area that you're fighting. If it's at a tournament, you got the ring marked off. So, I mean, you can't run out of that ring into somebody else's ring. You can't, if you're inside of a dojo and, you know, you got walls around you, you multiple skip, and you get up close to one of those walls. I mean, you can't just stop right there at the wall and tell your opponent, hey, stop, you know, or anything like that. So at some point during multiple skip, you're either going to have to lock down and counterattack, or during that multiple skip, you're going to have to move off at an angle and counterattack. Okay. Now, where people gets multiple skip and retreat shuffle mixed up is this. A retreat shuffle is just a quick one step from right here, it's just boom, like this.
Right.
That's it. That's a retreat shuffle. You know?
Right.
Like you and I fighting. Obviously, I'm 6 foot, you're 5 foot on a good day. Okay? So this half step, you might be playing a little bit of fire against someone much taller than you like I am.
Right.
You know, unless you're a
Right.
really, really good judge, maybe you fought that person before, how good a reach they got.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be to your advantage is do the retreat shuffle.
Right.
Real quick like
Right.
that, and then just stop. And then counter it if they're still coming. That's where a retreat shuffle works in. A retreat shuffle, you know, and we've seen this in dojo before. People look
yes.
like bunnies just
Yes.
hopping backward like that. I've seen them hop 15, 20 foot backward. That's not a retreat shuffle,
No.
people. That is not a retreat. I don't even know what that's called. That's not even really a good multiple skip. Okay? Because retreat shuffle is just that 2 quick steps, bam, bam, right here. That's all a retreat shuffle is. A multiple skip is, you know, like if you're run stepping and you're coming towards me, you know, I'll do like this and keep moving backward while I've got my guard up.
Right.
You know, but again, at some point I'm either going to have to
You're
lock
gonna
down and, you know, counterattack you, or I'm going to have to shoot off at an angle. And if I'm coming backward, I'm going to have to stop before I even shoot off at an angle.
Right.
Because that's the only way I can, if you're blitzing me, you know, and then once I start moving backward, that's pretty much the only 2 choices I got outside of getting hit.
Right.
You know, so you got to do one of the 2.
Okay.
You know, so again, multiple skip and retreat shuffles, two totally different things. Okay.
Okay. That's all we have on our
Okay.
list.
All right.
You want to remind everyone about
You
the
go ahead.
homework assignment on Getshin Funakashi that is due Thursday, 2 days from today, by 10 p.m. You can either mail it or email it. I guess at this point you probably ought to email it if you've not finished it yet, so it'll get here on time. Please also keep in mind that those of you that are testing in August, these assignments are counting towards your next grade.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's just like if you were in the dojo.
yes.
If we've been in the dojo for the last 2 months, what you do in the dojo, because you know your testing doesn't start the night or the day you come in for testing.
Right.
Your testing should start the day you get your belt. So let's say you got promoted to orange belt today, okay? Then you're testing in their style, green belts after orange. You get promoted to orange belt today, you come to class tomorrow, your testing actually started tomorrow. It don't test the day you actually take that test.
Right.
You're graded on what you've done all the way since that last belt.
Exactly.
Up to it. So, you know, we've been out of the dojo for a couple of months. People's wanting training videos and stuff, and we've been putting them up, but we've been giving homework assignments too. So, these homework assignments is part of your grade, like you would be coming to class. Instead,
Right.
leading up to August when we have our big annual, if you will, biannual testing,
Right.
you know, or whatever, you know.
Right.
We usually try to have one of those every year or every other year, but anyway, these homework assignments is leading up to that testing in August. I didn't say that when I first gave it. I shouldn't have to say that. That was your assignment.
And it should get done.
And you should understand, this is my assignment, I've got to do it.
Right.
Just like tonight is training night at the dojo, so I've got to get in there and train. If you don't do your assignments, you don't test. Or if you don't do your assignments, your testing results are not going to be as good. If you do your assignments when you're supposed to, then you get to test, or your testing results are going to be better. So
Right.
the assignments are very, very, very important. That's why I'm giving them.
Yes.
And I'm keeping them. Trust me, I got every one of them laying right over there.
Yes.
And I know who's missed and who hasn't.
Yes.
So, and who's followed instructions and who hasn't.
Yes.
You know, all that leads up to these belt tests.
Yes.
So, hopefully we will be doing YouTube videos. Tonight's Tuesday. We'll do another one probably for sure sometime later this week. Try to do them on Tuesday and Thursdays nights that we would normally have class. But if we don't do YouTube videos next week, we might just do some Zoom training next week because Governor Cooper is opening up North Carolina. This COVID-19 opening up phase. I guess they're doing it in phases. And phase 1 opens up May the 9th. That's on a Saturday. The following Tuesday is May the 12th. We start our training back in the dojo on May the 12th. Same nights, Tuesdays, Thursdays, same time, 5:45 to 8 o'clock. Except from here on out, on Tuesday nights, we will have black belt training. For anyone that's testing for any type of black belt, whether it's your first, second, third, or whatever the case may be, if you are testing for a black belt every Tuesday night after normal class night, we're having black belt training. People need to, if you're testing for your black belt, you need to make it because we've been out of the dojo for 2 months now. We're way behind the power curve. This is important. You don't prepare, you don't test. It's just that simple.
Very true.
Not going to let you embarrass yourself, and you're not going to embarrass no one else. So if you're, you know, you got to prepare yourself in order to test. That's just the way it is. Okay. So remember, May the 12th.
May the 12th.
We'll get back in the dojo.
Yes.
Next week, we haven't decided whether we're going to do YouTube or Zoom training. We'll do one of them next week.
Okay.
But everybody get ready. May the 12th, we're back in the dojo again.
Good.
Because this phase 1 is going to allow us to get back in. All dojos won't be open, but it will allow us to get back in just by the wording of it and stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
We good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.